Welcome to the October 26th edition of the PFF Forecast. I'm George. I've got Brad and Seth. It is a Wednesday night Seth doubleheader. We've got Tej Seth coming up to close us out with our lock of the week. And back again by popular demand is True to Fortgang. We're going to talk live betting strategy and some alt lines to bet this week. It's going to be a fun podcast. Let's rock. All right, Seth, I understand that you're copying Peyton and Eli and Barack Obama with the quarter zip that you have. Was that the inspiration for you?
Look, I want the listeners to understand that what I'm about to say, I told George and Brad in private before we started recording that I'm wearing a quarter zip right now because I got a hummus stain on my t-shirt that I'm wearing underneath. I was having a little nice, baby carrots and hummus snack. And some hummus got loose. It happens.
For the best of
us.
It
does happen. Where does hummus and carrots? Where does it get drafted in the list of healthy snacks?
I think it's it's in the top 20 somewhere. I mean, anything with hummus is gonna bump up any type of vegetable, right? So somewhere in the top 20.
Is popcorn a healthy snack? Because I'd take that number one.
I think that's the trendiest healthy snack right now.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. Smart pop. Brad, what do you have? What's going number one?
Number one in the healthy snack game. Hummus is definitely high on the list, but I would probably go, I'm a simpleton, just like a nice apple and peanut butter, just right down the middle, keep it simple.
Okay. I don't even know. I feel like we could do a draft, but there's so many things in the healthy snack realm. Maybe we say that for the end. Let's get after this Thursday night. As usual, Seth joins us. He does some amazing work for us. If you're a new member of the printing press, just joining us, Seth prepares both Kirk and Chris for Thursday and Sunday Night Football. And in doing so, accumulates a massive amount of knowledge about the game of football that no one else can compare to, which means he's here to answer the big questions like, where should Justin Herbert be appropriately ranked amongst quarterbacks in the NFL?
I'm going to end up being the Herbert guy twice over because, famously, I did not like his.
Yeah. What did you say? Can you tell the people what you said about Herbert?
I said he couldn't play at Oregon, famously.
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch the rookie season, you watch year two, clearly not a fluke. I mean, this guy is as good of a quarterback as we've seen, up there, tier one quarterback. And now he's obviously not playing well year three. So I went in the complete opposite direction, calling him a tier one quarterback over this past offseason, saying the Chargers are going to win the division. They're going to win the Super Bowl. So now I'm the Herbert guy in the other way as they continue to kind of flounder around as the cursed franchise that they are.
I don't see a single good Herbert take on the timeline. Emmanuel Acho is out here. I don't know that he's watched a single Chargers snap this season and is going off. We've got people putting him in the top 3. We've got people putting him in at 15. It's ridiculous. Here's my take, guys, on the Herbert thing. It ain't his fault. It ain't his fault. Give him a real offense to run.
I will say that offense, I mean, the Saints offense this year has been kind of okay with Andy Dalton and some weeks with Jameis Winston, but that, people have gone from under Sean Payton, Joe Lombardi, and now Pete Carmichael there. It seems to not be the coaching tree you want coaching a young quarterback.
No, it does not. Thursday Night Football, we have a young quarterback and a very old quarterback. Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, going to Tampa Bay to play the very banged up Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It is currently, as I see it, Bucks -1. Now, this has gone kind of all over the place. I saw Baltimore favored by 1.5 earlier in the week. When we talked early on Sunday night, Brad, it was what, Tampa by 3, Tampa by 2.5 in some places. So it hasn't crossed a key number. But it is clear that the public is, or not the public, but the market is out on the Tampa Bay Bucks and is finally ready to throw in the towel on them. They're not favored at home with Tom Brady. I don't know when the last time that has ever happened. And you have a Ravens team that is 4-3. Lamar Jackson started off the season really incredibly. He's kind of petered out. He actually has a lower PFF grade than Tom Brady heading into this game. I will mention that you should go check out the PFF app, and you can see exactly where PFF's models have this, as well as our best bets. And there's one involving Lamar Jackson that you might check out. A lot of good prop bets there. So go download, that on the iOS App Store by searching PFF. Seth, where would you like to start with Ravens Bucks?
How can you not start with? I say this every week, but how can you not start with the quarterback? And in this case, Tom Brady. Because you watch him, and we have to remember that he's 45 years old, and it could be the end. Like, there's no telling that any week could be kind of like the end, or any season, I guess we could say, is kind of the end. And I feel that way when I watch him. There's a lot of 2020 Drew Brees in there. There's a lot of 2015 Peyton Manning. There's 2020, 2021 Ben Roethlisberger in there. I think you get to a point where, and especially with the Buccaneers having turnover in the interior of their offensive line over this offseason, even though Shaq Mason, who they signed, is a good player, you're sitting there, you're 45 years old, and you don't want to get hit. And I get that. I'm 34. I don't want to get hit, right? So so I understand that. His average time to throw is 2.25 seconds. That is absolutely unreal. Like, we've never heard of that number before. So it's, in a sense, it's speeding up his process, but they're calling the same plays. It's not like every play is a play to get the ball designed to get out at 2.25 seconds. But what happens is you have these plays that they're running, and we can remember that even though Brady does get the ball out quickly over his career, and certainly in the time with Tampa Bay, never this quickly, but these were deeper concepts. And let's say they were running in New England, his average depth of target has gone up. So now you're calling the same plays, but in his mind, he's got to go, and you're getting slightly worse accuracy. His passing grade under 10 yards is the worst in his career, basically. So, you're seeing it in those areas. Now, has he made over the past 2-3 weeks, even in the losses, some incredible throws down the field? Yeah. But it's the down-to-down consistent throws that are not there right now. Do you believe Tom Brady, because he is Tom Brady, can figure it out? And given the surrounding cast, which is pretty good, can figure it out? Yes, but we said that about Ben. We said it about Peyton. We said it about Breeze. Like, these guys kind of just fall off. And I think I'm sure on PFF.com, there's some studies that we've done that we published on older quarterbacks kind of falling off the cliff that last year. So I want to believe it'll turn around because it's Tom Brady, but it's red alert right now.
Where do you place the blame? Because I'm gonna give you a couple of data points here that I think point to some people other than Tom Brady. The first is the percentage of pass plays against which the Tampa Bay Bucks faces perfect coverage. Now, why would I mention that? Because it turns out that this is something that is more consistent across offenses than it is defenses. In other words, you are not getting open, okay? The opposing defenders are stuck to your guys across the board. That's what perfect coverage is. In the NFL this season, there are 4 teams that have separated themselves as being offenses that face the most perfect coverage. The Carolina Panthers are number 1 with an absolute bullet. Doesn't surprise me. Interestingly, the Washington Commanders are 3rd, and then the Green Bay Packers and Tampa Bay Bucks are second. The Packers and Bucks are 3rd and 4th. Okay, so I look at that and I go, that's interesting. Tom Brady, is he responsible for guys not getting open? And then secondarily, what if I told you that the Tampa Bay Bucks actually have a more efficient passing offense using expected points added per play than the Baltimore Ravens? So, is it all Tom Brady's fault? Is that really the big problem? Or is it that the Bucs are like the worst rushing offense in the entire league, and yet they refuse to stop running the ball? Where do you place that blame? Is it all Brady, or is it Leftwich and what this offense, that the rest of the offense is doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of blame to go around. Obviously, with the receiving core, they've had injuries. They've had the suspension to Mike Evans. They've had their retirement to Gronkowski, and the tight ends just haven't played very well. Replacing him, and that has led to. So there's a funny thing that's gone on with the run game. You mentioned the worst run game in the NFL, basically. So Leonard Fournette gets all these snaps, first down, second down, third down. He is their running back. I couldn't tell you why. Brady loves him, whatever. Have fun. But what's happening is they can't run these downhill runs that usually go behind the tight end. They call their duo runs. And the tight ends are getting killed on the line of scrimmage. Absolutely killed, whether it's Otton or Braid. Cole Keefe, I guess, is okay, but he's still a rookie. And, even Godwin now is a player that isn't the best run blocker as he's been in the past. So they're getting killed on these downhill runs, which is what Leonard Fournette needs to have. He needs to be able to go north-south because he can't really do much else. So what's happening is they're saying, okay, well, we can't run behind these tight ends. So what are we going to do? We're going to run more outside zone. You can't put Leonard Fournette in outside zone. He doesn't have the wiggle, the vision, the cutback ability. Like, he doesn't have any of that. So you can't run the football. You believe you can run the football. Obviously, I'm sure you guys have talked about this for years on the PFF forecast. But, they refuse to just like kind of change things up, I guess, or run more play action, just run the ball less. They are pulling guys a little bit, running more power and counter to kind of help that. But really, I mean, Fournette is, to me, one of the main issues. Obviously, they're not great at run blocking either, but Fournette being on the field as much as he has been a really, really big issue for them. The separating stuff, I'll tell you, it didn't pop out at me when I watched the film. I think that's a great stat. It didn't pop out at me when I watched the film. Like Godwin's coming off the ACL. Like I said, the tight ends have just not been great. And maybe Evans, Evans probably gets mislabeled as a contested catch guy when he's just an all-around guy, but maybe he's just not having that type of season. So yeah, it's everything. And so it's all three. It's the running game, it's Leftwich, it's Brady, it's the receivers. But it's like, okay, well, are we going to fix that? Is that just something that's going to get fixed Thursday night? Or they're going to go to 3-5? Like, that to me, I guess, is the concern. Like, whatever the issues are, and we can, talk for an hour and figure out what they are they going to get fixed for Thursday night?
Brad, a lot of injuries. What's the current status here for the Bucs? I saw something that was like half their team is out.
Super injured, which I think is interesting that the spread has now, like you said, no key numbers, but for them to go from to +1.5 to -1 as of right now, they have neither Carlton Davis nor Sean Murphy Bunting in the secondary, no Russell Gage, game time decision for Julio, which who knows what that even means at this point. Left guard Luke Gadecki, who has kind of been filtered out of the lineup a little bit when he struggled, but still is their starting left guard is not playing. So yeah, it's a long list of injuries. Baltimore's biggest is no Calais Campbell, which does matter, maybe helps the run game a little bit for Tampa Bay, but a longer list for Tampa, which is kind of weird given the the spread movement.
Yeah, and Antoine Winfield Jr. out, right, with a concussion. So they are super banged up. Interestingly, on the other side of things, you think about the Ravens and their strength. Lamar Jackson has really improved as a passer, and has become their passing game is legit. But you think about the Ravens, you think about the run game. Vita Vea, who's been consistently really great for the Bucs, on the other side of things, lowest grade of his career, 54.5 right now. So you think about all those injuries. A lot of them are on the defensive side of the ball, Seth. How does this matchup then look for the Ravens? I mean, I think just about everybody has the Ravens in this game. It seems like everyone's given up on Tom Brady and the Bucs defense. Have you? And like, how do you see the Ravens offense faring this game?
Well, the injuries are, to me, the most important thing here, because so already the Buccaneers like to load the box. They like to show you that they're going to play with one high safety. They have changed things a bit after the Green Bay game who took advantage of their kind of defensive structure, I would say, kind of behind the linebackers off play action in front of that deeper safety. So the issue, so then you get into a situation where you play that type of coverage, you're gonna have a lot of one-on-ones on the outside, and we know that this can be a weakness for the Ravens. So to me, that's kind of the key matchup is like, can the Ravens receivers win these one-on-ones? Carlton Davis not playing, Jamal Dean having a good season, but the rookie played last week, Zion McCollum. Athletic testing for him was off the charts at the combine, but still a rookie. Allowed a couple plays against the Panthers last week. D. Delaney, I guess, is going to play in the slot over Antoine Winfield. That's not great because the Ravens' best player is in the slot in Mark Andrews. So that to me is really the where the matchup I think can be won. Like you said, it's possible that the Ravens also just run the ball very well because, like you said, Vita Vea is just not. I think one-on-one against the center, he's still getting a little bit of push, but he's getting kind of beat on a lot of double teams. So, and I don't want to we don't have to get into the details, but I don't love playing a 5-man, like like an old school 3-4 with a nose against an option running team like the Ravens are. I think you can get caught too inside as they run outside. So Vita Vea is going to have to take on a lot of double teams and deal with it that way and down blocks, stuff like that. Again, hasn't been that great. So if they can just run the ball, then that's great. But I think if it's going to be like if the Bucs can stop them a little bit, then it's really going to be the outside receivers winning a one-on-one, which honestly we've been talking about the Ravens for years. Like, just give me a guy who commands some sort of double team. So when they, you don't let them play, you let a team play with a loaded box against you.
So talking a little bit about their passing game, it's funny. Lamar Jackson's 3.2 seconds average time to throw, almost a full second longer than Tom Brady. Obviously, that makes sense why that's the case. But I think one of the more polarizing people out there is Greg Roman, their offensive coordinator. Obviously, infamously has unlocked a lot of potential with Lamar Jackson. Colin Kaepernick back in the day, but also gets a lot of flack for his lack of really creativity on the outside. You see receivers run into each other and just not a lot of kind of layered concepts and different things. Speak to, let's say they do get down in this game. They can't just lean on the run game. What can they do and how can they win? Because Rashad Bateman isn't really, I want to say he didn't practice today. He's not a sure thing to play in this game either.
Yeah, and I think like every time I watch the Bucs defense, I say that the same. I just see it and I see the same thing. And like I said, they've switched some stuff up since the Packers game, kind of moving safeties around, a little bit more confusion in the secondary in terms of confusing the offense before the snap. But at the end of the day, like that level between the linebackers and safety off play action is where you want to go. But that's not necessarily the Ravens game. It's even their play actions are really to get the ball kind of more down the field on over routes and stuff. And rather than these quick, these kind of, we call them like short post glance routes or something like that. So it doesn't really add up to a certain degree. Now, again, you can still win with the plays that the Ravens are calling. But I think like structurally, it's not a quote unquote a winning matchup. And just on Greg Roman, I think it's a fascinating offense that they run. And it's a fascinating idea to think about, well, what if you put a Lamar Jackson in Cliff Kingsbury's offense where it's kind of the complete opposite in terms of wanting to run the option. The Cardinals run the option almost as much as the Ravens do, but it's from these spread looks, 2x2 slot formations, no tight ends on the field, 4 receivers on the field up until this past season. You wonder if spread to run is really, and I know a lot of studies have shown that spreading sideline to sideline helps you run the football and makes a lot of sense. So I think there's good discussion to be had about Greg Roman. I'm not pro and I'm not anti Greg Roman. I'm like very Greg Roman neutral because I like a lot of the stuff that they do. It's fun, it's creative. They use a lot of motion. They're getting guys good angles in the run game. It can lead to a stagnant passing game. Like you said, sometimes you're like, is it coached well? Because guys are running into each other. So that would be the issue. But I think there's ways that they can take advantage of the Bucs, but again, just like Green Bay did. Green Bay ran the same play like 5 times and they had success. So hopefully they watch that game, the game film.
We'll get to Green Bay here in a second. Let's get this one wrapped up here. Biggest mismatch that you see on the field, Seth. And last week we talked about DeAndre Hopkins, baby. And so we nailed that one. That was the lock of the century. Hopefully you lead us in a good direction this week.
Well, the matchup, like I said, is outside the numbers. Rookie corner, a rookie slot corner second year slot corner, D Delaney versus Mark Andrews and the Ravens receiving core. So I think that matchup is the one to watch there. I think that could be a tough matchup for the Bucks. My bets, love any type of Fournette under, especially receiving yards or catches, 29.5 receiving yards. I think it's 4.5 catches because I just believe that they're going to have to go to Rachaad White at some point. It's just not working with Fournette. And you saw some more Rachaad White. He had a few carries against Carolina, had some juice, had a nice run. I just think eventually they're going to need something. Now, I'm not like maybe not on third down because maybe they trust Fournette as a pass protector, but eventually Rachaad White's going to have to get some burn.
Brad, where are you going?
Yeah, I think we'll be discussing the Lenny stuff a bunch tonight. So I was thinking Cade Otton under 29.5 receiving yards. He has been getting a little bit more burn. He actually leads rookie tight ends right now in targets and receiving yards, but kind of an empty stat. I think Greg Dulcich in Denver might pass that in a couple games, but he's been relatively productive. But I just don't love it against these Ravens safeties. A lot of the things they do, and I also think that they're going to try to get Mike Evans going again. He dropped that big touchdown pass last week. I don't think it's a feed Cade Otton type of game. When I look at it,
I like those. Emotionally, I want to bet Brady and the Bucks when everyone is down and out on them. But I actually could see it going deeper. Like I could see it getting worse before it gets better, to be really honest with you. And one of the things that Brady just can't overcome is ridiculous amount of injury. So I'm going elsewhere. I have a couple that I love. I love Rachaad White over 16.5 receiving yards for that exact reason, Seth. And that the simple fact that, Brady gets rid of the ball so quickly. I think I agree with you. I think they got to give Rachaad White some run. I'm not seeing a lot of Mark Andrews props out there, but I'm guessing his catch total will be 6.5, 7.5. I'll take the over there as well on Andrews. But here might be my favorite. Chris Godwin over 6.5 receptions. They're going to be down. He's going to play in the slot a bunch. And you think about what the Ravens have, from a corner perspective. Obviously, Humphrey on the outside, really good. I don't think that he's going to go, follow Chris Godwin around with Mike Evans out there. And you look at who they've been playing in the slot with DeMarion Williams, who has a 40 PFF grade, a 37.3 coverage grade. That is 108th out of 112 cornerbacks. Chris Godwin over 6.5 receptions. This feels to me like DeAndre Hopkins over 5.5. Not quite, I think, to that level, but close. How do you feel about those, Seth, by the way? You feel good?
No, well, look, the Rachaad White over, that's exactly what I'm saying. So I might add that to my
to your list
here. Yeah.
Beautiful. Let's go Sunday night. This is, again, we have Brady as an underdog at home. We have Rodgers as a mighty underdog on the road here. But the number is, it's staggering, honestly. They are an 11.5 point underdog in Buffalo. They're 3-4. They are 2-5 against the spread. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but Aaron Rodgers, as he likes to do, goes on Pat McAfee's show, speaks his mind, and basically said, to sum it up, a lot of these other scrubs out here on my team suck. They're not playing well. They shouldn't be playing because they're not playing well. And oh, by the way, I'm playing really well. In fact, I just had my best game per my own quarterback coach against Washington, and we lost. So it's not my fault. Get better to the rest of the team. I don't know if you're psychoanalyzing this for Chris as well, Seth, but where do you want to start with Packers Bills?
We did a role play in our meeting on Monday. I played the therapist.
Nice.
It was very healthy.
You have a soothing voice.
Yeah, thank you. Rodgers just not playing very well. He's also missing some targets. for him, it feels like, and now I know you just told me that the Packers can't separate, but it feels like there are times when they do, and he's still not putting the ball. And you're like, man, and I know this is like the whole thing, does he trust the receivers? He doesn't like them. He's, like you just said, he's talking about them in the media. So it's like, but man, there are some opportunities to make plays and just kind of run the offense where you're not, in a way that you're not, he's just not himself right now. The accuracy is not great right now. So I think just kind of running the offense, letting LaFleur do a little more of the heavy lifting would help. They've kind of gone away from that AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones stuff that they said. It's my favorite thing. Maybe this should have been my pet peeve of the week, but the yearly talk in the offseason from offensive coordinators, and it doesn't matter what level, honestly. We're going to put our two best players, our running backs, we're going to put them on the field together. What, like, they do the same thing. They generally have similar skill sets. And even a Jones versus Dillon, where you're like, one guy can maybe catch the ball a little bit more. I mean, generally they're very similar what they do on the football field. So putting them both on the field has not worked for them. They've kind of stopped it to the last 3 weeks. Has only been like 8 plays where they've been on the field together after being in double digits for some weeks over the first 5 weeks of the season. So yeah, I just like the Packers offense just needs to kind of not simplify, because in a sense they've kind of oversimplified, but just Aaron just got to play within the system, be okay, trust the receivers.
I mean, interestingly, last week against the Commanders, no Randall Cobb, right? His main guy. Romeo Doubs basically forgot his hands in Green Bay. You figure it can't be that bad. But then again, similar to the Bucs, a lot of things that really terrify you about this team. They have a negative EPA per pass play.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, every time he drops back to pass, is getting them further away from scoring. I mean, that is bonkers to me. I mean, it is bananas. And obviously they're going up against a Bills offense that it's the Bills and the Chiefs, and then the rest of the league just absolutely stinks out loud, with the Eagles playing like half the game at a really high level and then, just deciding to throw in the towel. The Packers, though, also look banged up, right? So the same things we talked about with the Bucs, they're not separating whatever it is, whether it's Rodgers leaving stuff on the field or all those things. Brad, what's the outlook for the Packers in terms of who they're going to have on the field this week?
Most depressing quote of maybe the NFL season was Zach Tom, the Packers' fourth-round rookie, talking about David Bakhtiari, and he was like, you always stay ready because you see him at practice and he kind of can't walk around, and so, like, if you're a tackle on the Packers, you know you could play at any moment. It was honestly like a sad quote to see. So I don't know his status, and obviously having Bakhtiari against this Bills pass rush would go a very long way. I don't think Christian Watson plays in this game. You mentioned Randall Cobb. He's out for a couple more weeks. He will not play in this game. The defense, I think, is getting healthier. They should be fine on that side of the ball. But you talk about kind of the two halves of Philadelphia. Green Bay in the first half, their defense is great. When it comes to crunch time, their defense is one of the worst defenses in the NFL in the second half. And you can't make that excuse like for Philly, where they're kind of letting their foot off the gas because they've already won the game. Green Bay just isn't a good defense when teams need to score, and they're losing games late with regularity.
Yeah, it's not, the Bakhtiari thing is sad because when he's played, he's been very good. The Bills coming off of a bye here, and obviously you look at the Bills, and one of the things that they do incredibly well is they get pressure with 4. They have I think a top 5 pressure rate. They blitz at a bottom 5 or 10 rate. Really impressive what they do there. And you think about setting up the Packers for poor passing performance. That's what you get to. So Seth, I guess I'll ask you this. I mean, you said you're kind of not sure whether you believe in Brady. Do you believe in Rodgers to get this thing back on the rails here? I mean, can they keep this within 10 points? Where is your head at there?
I want to believe they can keep it within 10, because that's such a huge number. This might be the first Sunday night game in Buffalo ever. Am I crazy when I say that?
Probably up there. I know Miami hosted their first one in like a long time. It happens sometimes, so you could be right.
So I mean, and coming off a bye week, I mean that's going to be rough. That's a rough place to go right now. But I think with Rodgers compared to Brady, 6 years younger, 7 years younger, something like that. Now, still, I mean, he's 38. It's not like he's 27, but I think we've also seen if the issue with Rodgers is he's being a little too pouty, then that can be corrected. Like if Brady's issue is like if the arm is just not there anymore. Again, I go back to Breeze and Manning and Roethlisberger, where just the arm just couldn't throw it anymore. If that's the case with Brady, then it's probably over. But with Rodgers, if it's more just like I'm being pouty, like I said, then I think obviously you can correct things. And again, I think there's enough receivers open on enough plays where it's there for the taking. Sammy Watkins wide open for a big play. He just decides to throw a flat route, not reading the play out. So I'm hoping for Green Bay's sake that this is just something that needs to be fixed mentally. Again, I'm available for therapy sessions if he needs it. But yeah, but the 10.5, that's such a big number that you almost I mean, back-to-back MVP winner, NFC Championship game last year, or divisional round last year. Like, got to believe in the Packers a little bit, right?
Let's flip to the other side because we've talked about the old guys a lot here. Josh Allen. I mean, it's him and Mahomes. What does Allen still need to improve? I mean, the guy is absolutely carving. He has 106 pass rating against pressure. That's ridiculous. He's averaging like 9 yards a play against pressure. It seems like every other play he's hitting either Diggs or Davis, down the football field. He runs the ball super effectively. Like, yeah, as you think about him and then obviously Mahomes as kind of the two best in the league, like what is the thing that if Allen did, you'd go, oh yeah, he's the best. He's the best in the league, or is he already there?
I think he's already there.
Wow.
I think tier one with like I always say it like this. Like I don't want to. There's no one better than Josh Allen. There might be some people on his level, and Mahomes would obviously be on that level, but there's no one better than him. I think he's all we did in our meeting on Monday with Chris was watch clips of him throwing rockets. Like we didn't even talk about anything else. Just like, let's just watch some fun Josh Allen clips. So, and he's doing stuff. He can make throws that other guys can't even dream. We've talked about it a lot, the two high shells and the Chiefs going through that little period last year where they didn't look like themselves. And then you get rid of Tyreek Hill, and they've kind of responded by Mahomes being the savant that he is, which is and he's just taking, these shorter games and they're moving the ball super efficiently. And with Allen, it's like, man, I can just throw the ball over your two high safeties. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'll just throw it. He made that post throw that Gabriel Davis made with a one-handed catch over Minka Fitzpatrick. Minka Fitzpatrick is just like, you watch him and he's like backpedaling. And he's just like, well, I'm at the normal speed of backpedal that I should be at, like that I'm taught to be at, that I've been doing my whole life. And I know no one's going to get behind me, and I know the ball can't get behind me, and it just does. And like, that is scary. And he's like the only guy who can probably beat his own kind of home field advantage, which is the wind in Buffalo, especially when it's going to get, they'll play, for their sake, hopefully 2 games in Buffalo in January. So I don't know is he like the greatest processor and he's seeing things super fast? Like sometimes maybe not, but who cares? Like he's just so good. He's throwing routes. Like there was he underthrew this one, which you don't say very often, but just the fact that he was scanning from left to right. And, generally quarterback plays, as you scan, as you go through your progressions, it usually is high to low. Right? Like we don't want to go wait 4 seconds while you're in the pocket and then throw the ball down the field. And he's scanning through his progressions, getting to basically his third or fourth read, and he's throwing a goat route down the opposite sideline of where he started his read. I mean, no one else does that. Again, he underthrew it a bit, so whatever. But the just him feeling confident and kind of generally being able to do that is incredible. I just don't. I wouldn't put anyone over him right now.
Except
Yeah.
for you on a flag football field. That's the key. Biggest mismatch that you see here, Seth, and where are you going with your bets on this one?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that the pack, it's not really a mismatch per se, but I think that the Bills' offensive line and pass pro has been at least middle of the pack, and helped by, of course, Allen's ability to evade people and get out of trouble. If Rashawn Gary doesn't play, he's in concussion protocol right now. I mean, they don't have a lot of depth there on the outside. Kenny Clark's still a good pass rusher from the middle. Devontae Wyatt, their first round pick, or maybe early second round pick, hasn't played. So, that's been really, that was their thing this year going into the season, was like, okay, well, we have two really good edge rushers. What if we don't have one of those two edge rushers? So I think that could be a good mismatch for the Bills offensive line.
All right. So does that mean you're rocking with the Bills? What are you doing here?
I'm still new to this betting thing, but
Mm-hmm.
10.5, 11, whatever it is,
11.5.
sounds crazy to me against the Packers. So I'm not I would take, obviously I would take the Bills straight up, but I think I would still take all those points if and go with the Packers.
What about you, Brad?
It's the most points Aaron Rodgers has ever had, by the way, Seth. I want to say a full field goal. I think 8.5 was the record. It's now up to 11.5. So one bet I do like, because I agree with you, I'm kind of afraid of the spread. If anything, I probably would go Green Bay. Is Devin Singletary under 19.5 receiving yards? I think a lot of times for guys like him, you're going to get receiving yards if maybe the team is down and there's some check down components to you're trying to make a comeback. You don't see your downfield stuff developing, so you check it down to a guy like Devin Singletary to pick up some chunk yardage. I don't think that's the game script at all. I think they'll be up relatively early. I think they'll run the ball. Maybe he'll hit his over rushing yards, but I don't like him to go over 19.5 receiving yards.
I like it. I'm taking advantage of, I agree. If I take the spread, I'm taking the Packers plus 11.5. I think they will have a little bit of success running the ball. I want to, even as good as Allen has been, those pressure numbers are going to regress a little bit. That's just how it works. And with, as you said, a little bit of a middling, especially interior of the offensive line with Kenny Clark in there. I think that caused a little bit of consternation. But Eric Stokes, 50.1 PFF grade, 92nd out of 110. So I like Diggs, our highest graded wide receiver. I'm taking him over 6.5, if that's what it is. I don't see it in a lot of places. Over 6.5, over 5.5. And I might play some alt lines there. I just think that he's going to cook these dudes. And so, maybe out to over 100 yards or something like that at plus money. That's where my head goes. We got a pet peeve out of Seth, which was fantastic. We were able to work some hummus into the conversation, which was also great. Seth, we appreciate you hanging out. I don't know how we'll cut the time down on this. We said we were going to try and keep it at 25 minutes. We haven't yet. We'll work on it. We'll be better next week. We appreciate you, man. Thanks for hanging out.
See you guys.
Before we go to Judah, want to remind you guys to go check out DraftKings, the unofficial sports betting partner of the NFL. Here's the thing. We just talked about like 10 different bets. Go get yourself some of that action before the lines move at DraftKings Sportsbook. You can go download the app on wherever you get your apps or go to DraftKings Sportsbook online. And here's the deal. Use promo code PFF and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. All you have to do is bet $5 on a team to win. The Bills are the biggest favorite, I believe, this week. So you can go bet on the Bills and then collect those $200 and then bet them on the player props that we all talk about here. It would be a great one. I personally like multiple player props that we like so far, both Diggs and Godwin, Andrews, Singletary, Rashad White. You've got a bunch of options. Go make it happen at DraftKings Sportsbook, where you can use promo code PFF to get $200 in free bets if your team wins with just a $5 bet. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes for details. Also, Symbol, it's basically a stock market for sports. You can get $500 risk-free deposit for new users who join the stock market for sports with promo code FORECAST. So if your first deposit comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, that should make sure that you are not hesitant at all. Go check it out. Use that risk-free deposit to play around at SIMBULL in the App Store with promo code FORECAST for a free deposit of up to $500 risk-free. All right, Judah Fortgang, he joined us last week, did a fantastic job. We talked about the Jets. We talked about some of the live plays that we would make. I believe we talked Tennessee Titans again, and they came through again for us, which was fantastic. How did your live betting go this past weekend? Any other things that you ended up capitalizing on?
Yeah, I actually had my best live betting week of the season, and it's
Really?
also something we talked about, which is I absolutely hammered the Chiefs. The second they went down 10-0, I was betting the alt spreads. I got them -5.5 plus 340, and then as that kind of started to materialize, and they were still around halftime, like -1.5, plus 100. I just kept adding and adding and adding. It's like when you're given the one time that a price is so off, I just kept on going. So that really turned out great.
Yeah, that was at the hands of my Niners. Was it were you looking at any like data there, or were you just watching this game going, yeah, this is a joke, and I can just see it with my own two eyes?
Well, I was looking at some data, which is I knew coming in that the Niners are one of the worst teams coming back, which makes sense, right? We all think that like you don't trust Jimmy G to kind of pass his way back into a game. So in that sense, like I had an angle of if the Chiefs jump out, then I have the Niners are probably not going to come back and cover. But also just like watching the game, just like the Mahomes, it's a fluke interception, and like the 7 points early don't mean that much when the Chiefs might score 40. And there's nothing to suggest that like they're not going to score 40. Just one of their drives happened to end up in a turnover. So watching that, it was like, okay, I see a bunch of noise. The score is 10-0, and I know this is going to be the best price I'm going to get because I trust that the Chiefs are going to score a lot, and I just pounced. So it's a combo of watching the game and coming in prepared, knowing kind of what to look for.
Did you end up capitalizing on the Titans? How did that go for you?
I did. I bet them under, I want to say the team total was like 25.5, which I got them. They did move the ball well, but didn't score too many points on their first couple of drives. But still, they're so bad in the second half. I was still able to capitalize.
All right, let's move on to this week. I hope members of the printing press are capitalizing on this. I'm sure they are because they're a savvy bunch. But this has been a lot of fun. Let's start with any alt lines that you like this week, if there are any, and then we can transition into what you're thinking about from a live betting game plan.
Yeah. So one that I just wrote up on the PFF site, you can view on site or on the PFF app, is the Arizona Cardinals. I like a -5.5. The lines keep on moving, somewhere between like 270 and 300 range. I like this for a bunch of reasons. Something I really look for is kind of trying to source where market pricing is coming from. What's the market actually saying? What does the spread line represent? And kind of where can I source that information? Where do I agree with it? Where do I disagree with it? So right now, like the in-predict rating, which really just like derives the actual spread value, says the Vikings are the 9th best team and the Cardinals are the 16th best team. I think by efficiency metrics, if you look at EPA, drive quality, which is something that I've sort of developed, they're right around league average. Both teams are kind of league average. But something that I don't think is being sourced in is that we've talked about that the Arizona Cardinals are dreadful on scripted plays, or they were dreadful on scripted plays, I should say. And almost there's a law of increasing returns with DeAndre Hopkins because he's the single best receiver, or was last year, on scripted plays. He led the NFL in yards per route run and led the NFL in PFF grade on those scripted plays. So the market's not really pricing in. They might be adding a point value of whatever it is, a half a point or a point to the spread, but I don't think they're sourcing the fact that the area where the Cardinals are struggling most is the area where DeAndre Hopkins helps them. Right, so it's like they're diminishing returns if DeAndre Hopkins comes back for the Chiefs. There's only so much better they can get. But for a team like the Cardinals, who are so bad scripted and DeAndre Hopkins is so good scripted, it really adds. And then you just add in kind of some matchup factors, which is DeAndre Hopkins played 27 snaps in the slot. Mike Renner tweeted about this, which is 17 more than he's played in any other game with the Cardinals. That just so happens to be the easiest matchup for the Vikings going up against Chandler Sullivan, who is 103rd out of 112th in PFF coverage grade so far. So if the Cardinals are putting him in the slot, that's really an advantage they can press. And we know that Kyler Murray really likes to feed DeAndre Hopkins. He had like a 48% target rate last year.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Took advantage of that last week.
Yeah. One last thing I'll say is that Kirk Cousins is deer in the headlights with the blitz. His EPA against the blitz is negative 0.21, which would essentially turn that offense into a much worse version of the Carolina Panthers. Their EPA is like 0.15. And the Cardinals blitz 40% of the time, which is third in the NFL. So I really, really like the Cardinals spot.
I like that for a bunch of reasons. Interior pressure specifically with J.J. Watt and Zach Allen, and Kirk Cousins is particularly a pumpkin when it's up the middle. Ed Ingram, their guard, has been a solid run. Yeah, has been a solid run blocker, but is still coming along as a pass protector. And then, you mentioned Chandon Sullivan. Just the team as a whole, the Vikings are dead last for us in coverage grade in the slot. So when they're throwing safeties there, whoever they're throwing there, it's the lowest for us in the NFL. So I love that one for sure. I had a question for you. You mentioned our Titans, your Titans. One aspect to also, I got to say, I saw your live feed of you doing the live betting of the Chiefs and the Niners. It was electric. I would recommend people watching along. But anyway, for the Titans, do you ever monitor something like there is some rumblings that Ryan Tannehill might not play in this game? He injured his knee last week. The spread opened at Houston +4. They're now +2 at home in this game. Do you ever look into, okay, this guy might start, but I'm going to watch this game, or I'm going to know coming in, if Ryan Tannehill takes one big hit in the first quarter, he might leave this football game. Do you monitor any of that? Do you think it's already priced in and there's maybe not an edge there? Or kind of what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we'll have the answer there, which is depending on if Ryan Tannehill starts and what the line is, right? If it's -2 and Ryan Tannehill starting, presumably the market is pricing in the game with Ryan Tannehill starting. If it moves back out to 3 or 4 where it was before, presumably they think the opposite. So that is something I'm monitoring. And it's also something to kind of note while watching, especially if you're isolating on one game, which is like Ryan Tannehill's mobility is huge to his game. Right, if you're watching and you see they're not really running the read options, they're operating their offense differently, that's certainly something I would look for. And then again, Daniel Jones is really hurt against the Packers, and it looked like he was very hurt. And if you watch the first quarter and a half, you'd assume, okay, he's got no mobility, and then boom, he started running, and the Giants' offense really took off. That's something you kind of got to balance, and that's kind of the beauty of we're numbers people at heart, but at the same time, there's actually some signal from just watching the games and kind of having a good understanding of the game.
Ryan Tannehill's mobility was not something I expected for us to be indexing on, but it's a really good point. I mean, I personally want to see Malik Willis with a game plan for him playing in a game. He comes in the middle of these games and it's has no chance and that's a little frustrating. So I was kind of hoping that we might get that look, but I don't think they feel he's ready there. Let's talk live game plan this week. Where are you going?
We've got a bunch of spots. One, I'll start off. The scripted stuff has been such dynamite so far early in the season. I'm just going to have to keep rolling with it. It feels ugly, but both the Commanders and Colts, and I'll have reasons why I think it's fine for Heineke and Ellinger, are terrible scripted. I think second and third worst teams, but actually get significantly better as the game goes on, and are more closer to the 20 to 22 range. So I think we can start to see a very slow first quarter. The line's going to move down. We'll hop on, basically knowing that it should be priced in that these teams really get off to slow starts and get better as the game rolls along. I think that's an easy kind of misprice. Another thing is the Browns have been really successful early in games. We saw it last week against the Ravens. And the Bengals have tended to struggle early, but that flips. The Browns have really struggled as the game rolls along when Kevin Stefanski has less of an input on the game. And the Bengals, when Zach Taylor has less of an input on the game, actually get stronger. Granted, there's always risk with the Bengals, as we saw last week, of explosive plays happening at any point in time. Those are definitely two angles I'm looking for. Of course, it goes without saying, Titans under until that market adjusts. Always in play.
The Titans under forever. And as we talked about Sunday night with Arjun, the Titans first quarter, which because of their scripted play success, you can get that benefit from that twice. I'm making a pact, Brad, this week I'm gonna try and channel my inner Judah, and I'm gonna sit there like you look like a day trader.
He
Like
does.
That's the goal. That
I
is
had this
actually
like
the goal.
I had this vision of, Dave Portnoy does the like Danny Day Trader stuff, and that's like complete comedy because you're like, oh my God, this is such a you're gonna be hemorrhaging money here. But I got that same vibe because I'm watching it on Twitter and I'm like, this is hilarious. And your joy at the numbers that you were seeing on the screen, it gave me Wolf of Wall Street vibes, honestly.
I appreciate that. I can't tell you how much fun it is. And then also just watching my own reactions and watching what I said, I get a great kick out of it.
How many books do you have open, or are you looking at one book that you hit
I'm looking
consistently?
at four. I got an iPad from a different work, which really helped because for some reason I can't connect to the sports books on my computer. So I was actually doing it on my
Hmm.
phone, and I was also trying to follow certain games on my phone. But I have basically all the apps open, and I'm scrolling, basically
Just
monitoring the
scroll.
lines. I've got Caesars, BetMGM, DraftKings, and FanDuel, and I added Bet Rivers because they got the best sack props. So I haven't
Hmm.
actually added that to the live betting repertoire, but
We'll have to get some sack props in here. Needs to happen. Judah, you can find all of Judah's content on PFF's app, as he mentioned. You can also follow him. A great Twitter follow. Really, some people just flood the zone with tweets. Brad and I might be in that category, but Judah creates some really insightful tweets, so you can actually get something out of it. It's at Throw the Damn Ball, man after my own heart. Thank you for hanging out with us. We appreciate you, and best of luck as if you need it this weekend.
yeah, awesome being on here again.
All right, it is lock of the week time. We have back again Tej Seth, our brother in Vishnu. Just to recap, last week we wanted to redeem ourselves for the week before. So we had a triad of locks. We hit the first two with DeAndre Hopkins, the lock of the century. We should have, I mean, in fairness, I had about five X what I had on that prop versus everything else that entire week, to the point where I was out to dinner with some friends, and I paid for dinner after he hit. He got his sixth catch. We had the Browns plus 6.5. That hit. We're not going to even mention the Patriots name. That was an embarrassment on their part. I can't believe that, Brad. I don't know. It's all your fault. I blame you as a Bears fan. So we went 2-1, but that got us back on the winning side of things. So we will once again go through our favorite bets and pick a stone cold lock of the freaking week. Tej, you are the guest. You can get it started. Where do you want to go first?
Mhm. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the hand that we thought was gonna feed us last week,
Mm,
but ended up not feeding us. Patriots minus 1.5 against the Jets. If you really look at the Patriots defense this year and kind of like their expected points added against like the different types of offenses that they faced, every single offense that's faced them has had a negative expected points added, so they've performed at a below average level, other
hmm,
than the Baltimore Ravens and the Chicago Bears. And I think the commonality between those two teams is really mobile quarterbacks that are used on
hmm.
a lot of design runs. And so, Zach Wilson can move, but he's rarely used on design runs. I think, he's the worst quarterback in the NFL right now under pressure. And, the Patriots get pressure on 35% of their snaps, which is the eighth best. And the Jets just lost their best offensive lineman in Elijah Gray Tucker. So I really like the matchup there. And also, I think there is a psychological effect as a play caller of not having your top rusher anymore in
Hmm.
Brees Hall. I think like the difference between Brees Hall and James Robinson isn't too much, but the kind of like the way you approach the game as from a play calling perspective, they might put Zach Wilson into more dangerous situations, causing turnovers. And I really think that the Patriots can get back on track this week.
We talked about that on Sunday night, and I've got to say, Brad and Arjun and I were slacking because we liked Jets on the look ahead, or sorry, we liked the Patriots on the look ahead here, and we're like, now it was before the Monday night game, and of course the Patriots look like absolute dog doo doo on on Monday night, and we're like, oh man, are we worried about this bet? And I'm like, I feel better about it now. Can you imagine what this week has been like for Patriots players? I mean, this must have been like, pray to God I don't go to hell, but like that's what hell must be like, is the Patriots after getting just embarrassed with by the Bears with an opportunity for Bill Belichick to pass George Halas. The only thing that worries me, honestly, about this one is that Mac Jones is playing, and I don't know why that worries me so much, but he just looked terrible. Brad, are you maintaining strength with this pick, or are you out a little bit?
10%. Our Bill Belichick's buddy Nick Saban. This is where I'm drawing my confidence from as well. They go out to lose to Tennessee, give up 52 points to Tennessee. They almost shut out Mississippi State the following week. I think it's the exact same scenario, like you said. Practice this week for New England has probably been hell. So I still love it. I have no lost faith. The Mac Jones situation is bizarre, but I think he can rise above it. He's used to kind of quarterback battles and all that stuff. It's different than maybe a Sam Darnold or a Zach Wilson type guy that's been coddled their entire career. I think he can use it as motivation, perhaps better than others. So I still love it. I'm glad that Tej took it first because I was going to take it if he didn't. I'll jump into mine. It's another one that's kind of trying to counter the narrative and be a bit of a contrarian. It's the New Orleans Saints plus 1.5. I'll probably just end up taking the money line, but nevertheless, New Orleans Saints. I teased it with the Bucks when they were plus 1.5 as well, but I just love. We talked about this. Look, they had 2 pick sixes in the first half in a minute. Still lost by 8 points. They're getting a ton of players back for this game. Marshawn Lattimore and Paulson Adebo did not play. Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry did not play. Some of those players will be back in this game. And the Raiders yes, they beat Houston by 18 points in that game. They were down 20-17 with 3 minutes left in the third quarter. They had a 75-yard pick six from Duron Harmon off of Davis Mills. The Texans are moving the ball pretty consistently against Las Vegas. So I think it's a great bounce back spot. I love New Orleans in this spot.
I like it. We mentioned a couple of bets that on the player prop side of things, Tej, that I want to get your take on, because I look at the board this week. There's not a ton of things that I love, but I do love Chris Godwin over 6.5 receptions against a Ravens team that struggles mightily in the slot. Their slot corner, 108th out of 112 cornerbacks. And I also love Stephon Diggs overs against the Packers with Eric Stokes over there, just a 50 PFF grade. Tej, how do you feel about those, by the way? Just want to get a little gut check.
Yeah, no, I really like those, especially the Diggs one, because I don't think the Packers defense do a good job of handing off players as they cross in between the heavy quarters that they play. And Diggs is great at, exploiting weaknesses in the zone, and Josh Allen will find him. So that one especially I really like as a prop bet.
He will find him. Okay, here's the game that I like. It is the San Francisco 49ers minus 1.5 in Los Angeles against the Rams. And I love buying the Niners in this spot. They just got embarrassed. They've lost a couple in a row. They're playing a Rams team that they have owned that is weaker now in the one place that they can't be weak against the Niners than they have ever been. And that is the offensive line. Their offensive line is a complete and utter disaster. Their backup left tackle is now out, and they have a backup there now. Nick Bosa is going to eat in this game. This is still a wide open division. You have the Seahawks, who are leading it, playing the Giants. So there's an opportunity here for the Niners to kind of get their what together. And I mean, I think people are looking at this and going, yeah, I mean, we can't put this past 3 because, it's the Rams, they're the defending Super Bowl champion, yada, 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 yada. The Niners and Kyle Shanahan own the Los Angeles Rams. They will continue to own them. The Niners offense against the Rams over the past 3 seasons, the past 3 matchups, has an EPA per play that would be second in the NFL if it were their season-long EPA. So they have been dramatically better against the Rams than just about any other team that they play consistently. So love the Niners minus 1.5 here. Tej, what's your next bet?
Yeah, no, first of all, I love that pick as well. The Rams have the lowest, EPA per pass in high expected pass situations, third and long when they're down big, and the 49ers defensive line is going to be able to tee off on those. So I do like the 49ers side there. I'll go with a player prop. I know Seth Galina mentioned this when he was on, or alluded to it, and it's Leonard Fournette under 82.5 rushing and receiving yards. First off, PFF's player props tool, go check it out. Sees this as a plus 3% edge. But when you dig into the underlying metrics behind Leonard Fournette's season. He's averaging 3.5 yards per carry right now and a negative 1.2 rushing yards over expected, which is 29th out of 33 qualifiers. And so that's one of the worst running backs in the league. And the Bucs started to realize this last week. In neutral game situation, they had a 68%, early down pass rate. And this was after having, one of the highest early down run rates in the league going into last week. And I think they realized that, they're just not going to be able to play that well when they're, wasting so many first and second downs by giving the ball to Leonard Fournette. So I think his usage is going to decrease in this game against the Ravens. And I also think that he's not, an effective rusher or receiver anyways to get to this 82.5 number.
I love going. You just continue to hammer the anti-Lenny sentiment, and it continues to hit. So huge fan. Brad, what's your next one?
Another overdrafted LSU running back getting his snaps taken away by a rookie this year. We've seen it already in Kansas City, and now we're moving on to Tampa Bay. So I'm also going to a player prop for this one as well. I kind of love it even more after today's news, even though he might not play much. But Kenny Pickett over 1.5 interceptions in this game. It's plus 175, a couple books. Yes, obviously kind of a random, there is some randomness to interceptions, but this Eagles defense coming off a bye is ferocious. They're going to get a ton of pressure, and Pickett is going to keep making these rookie mistakes and throwing the ball down the field. He's going to take gambles. He loves targeting George Pickens. He doesn't take as much of the underneath stuff as Mitchell Trubisky was with his 5.5 yards per attempt. He wants to try to throw the ball downfield. Darius Slay and James Bradbury, one of the best cornerback duos in the back end. Obviously, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Avonte Maddox in the slot. I just think it's a battle of Pennsylvania. They're going to try to stay in this game, try to keep scoring. And we know that Philly does get soft in the second half. They're actually on defense, bottom 10 in EPA per play on defense. Yes, part of it is because they're up by so many points, but they let up in the second half. They kind of let teams move the ball on them. And I think Pittsburgh will try to throw, but that could lead to some turnovers, which we've seen from him quite a bit. So I like this spot a lot.
I've got one more. It is Monday night. I'm going back to the well here on Monday night. It's Browns plus 3.5 now. I like getting the hook here. Here's the thought process. Now, before I get here, I want to ask Brad, what's the Browns were really banged up last week. We were worried about that. They ended up covering against the Ravens. What is the health situation looking like for the Browns? Because they were without Denzel Ward last week. They were without Wyatt Teller. I think Njoku has already been ruled out. But what's the situation with the rest of that squad?
Yeah, I was going to say the Njoku injury I think is a pretty big one. Both not sure right now because it's a Monday game, but trending positively for both Denzel Ward and Wyatt Teller. And obviously Ward in this matchup against Cincy, you need him to play in this game.
Yeah. So I think Jamar Chase, a little banged up there. I can see them being conservative. I guess it's not decided yet whether he's going to play or not.
Not decided, no. Ward's concussion protocol, so we don't know yet. Chase, I think it's lower body, not 100% yet. If he does play, I don't think he'll be 100% healthy.
Right. So look, the Bengals just blew the doors off of Falcons team that forgot how to play football when you're behind. It comedic there. And so I think you're getting a little bit of this immediately buying back on the Bengals, who it wouldn't be hard for people to immediately get back on the wagon with because they went to the Super Bowl, because they've got Joe Burrow, yada, 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 yada. The Browns, spunky in their cover against the Ravens, who are a really good football team. They're back at home. They did lose that game. They're 2-5. They've got to show up and get a victory here. This is a team that wants to make the playoffs. They want to have themselves in a good position when he who shall not be named scumbag himself comes back to play quarterback here. But they have an opportunity to run the ball against a Bengals defense without their best run defender in DJ Reader, who is on IR. There's also this Eli Apple guy. He's 103rd out of 110 corners. You got Amari Cooper with an opportunity to take advantage of that. So I do think at home on Monday night, getting 3.5, I do like the Browns. That is my last one. Tej, you have anything else, or we got to decide now?
Yeah, just a quick one that I like. Cardinals money line. You can find it on DraftKings BetMGM for plus 160 around there. I think Cliff Kingsbury was getting tired of everyone making fun of his offenses falling off every single year midway through the season. So he's like, all right, I'm going to have DeAndre Hopkins sit out his first 6 games. I'm going to bring him back. And then Mike Renner, had a really interesting point that Hopkins played 27 snaps in the slot, to get us our over receptions on the game against the Saints on Thursday, which was 17 more than he's ever had in a game with the Cardinals. So you can see that there's a different usage of Hopkins this year. They're using him, in different ways to get him the ball. And then, when you look at the other side, the Vikings play zone at the second highest rate in the league. And Kyler Murray has a 0.05 EPA per pass against zone. And that goes to negative 0.15 EPA per pass against man. So he's been really able to take apart zone this year, a lot better than man. And then Judah had a really interesting point about how, Kirk Cousins is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league against the blitz, negative 0.2 EPA against the blitz. And Arizona blitzes at the third highest rate in the NFL. So I like a lot of the matchups there for the Cardinals to kind of pull off this upset on the road against the Vikings.
They're getting 3.5 on the road. You like the money line at plus 160. Guys, I don't know where you guys are leaning. I'll hold my thoughts here for a second. Brad, what are you thinking?
I would just say if the two young wonderkins see Arizona eye to eye, it also opened at 5 and 5.5 at some books, and like you said, is now at 3.5. Again, not a key number, but it has moved that direction. I'm inclined to take a deep, long look at that one. But I love going back to the well with the New England Patriots. I think they could win 30-0 in this game, and I said that last week. I know, but I think they can blow the doors off the Jets in this game.
Tej, where's your head at?
Yeah, no, I like the Patriots one. I'd also like the Browns bet as well. But I think the favorite one that you guys gave out was probably the 49ers minus 1.5. I think, it's a great situation, great matchup for them. And, George, as you always like to say, Sean McVay is going to be getting a trip, visit from his dad this weekend in Kyle Shanahan. So I think we could see that play out in that game too.
You always like to see a trip from dad. I mean, my take here is that we go back to the well with multiple locks, and we give a little trio here for the people. I think we should go with the Leonard Fournette one. I do like that one. I don't know. Maybe we do a little Thursday night Leonard Fournette and Chris Godwin action. That could be fun. I think I'm with you guys on the Patriots as well. The only thing that worries me a little bit about the Niners is they have some injuries, on their end of things, and it is still Jimmy G. So I don't know. I mean, that's the biggest worry that I have there. So why don't we do Patriots as one? Tej, what did you have Leonard Fournette at?
It was 82.5 rushing plus receiving yards.
Okay. Under 82.5 rushing and receiving for Leonard Fournette. And then Brad, what's our third one going to be here?
Yeah, if you don't love the Niners, because I actually took them on Sunday, for our early look aheads. If you don't love that one, I'm a little worried about Cleveland. I hear all the points he made. Eli Apple got benched in that game, actually, for rookie Cam Taylor-Britt. He might not even play.
That's right.
But I'm scared of – and look, that's the guy who bets on the Browns every single week. I'm a little scared about that one. I would go Saints. Maybe not a pick you guys like, but I love them, in this spot.
Here's the thing. We need some redemption from Brad. And he's got, a couple of teams. He went to school in New Orleans. He's a Bears fan. We've got to get that figured out. So you have Saints plus 1.5 at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. I think we could do that. Is there a player prop maybe that sticks out? We go another player prop.
We could go player prop route.
The Pickett one was really good. I really like Brad reasoning for that too.
What's the deal? He's not supposed to play the whole game. What's the deal there?
No, is he not supposed to play the whole game? Are you thinking of Zappy and Jones?
No, I thought you said something to that effect.
Oh, no, it's just the Eagles in the second half when they build a lead, they kind of sit back and just don't do a whole lot, which I think, so the Pittsburgh's going to keep playing, keep throwing, keep trying to throw their way back into this game, and I think it could lead to some errant throws right into the hands of, Darius Slay and James Bradbury.
What's that line at?
So it's over 1.5 is plus 175.
Wow,
that's a juicy lock right there.
Yeah, it is a juicy lock. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do your Saints. Okay, we'll take your Saints. That'll be our third one, and then we have a couple that the printing press we got to print over here. We have 2 plus money, really tasty ones with the Cardinals at plus 160 and then Pickett over 1.5 at plus 175. It's just going to be a smorgasbord of locks this week. And hopefully they all hit and we have a wonderful weekend. And here's the deal: if they're looking like they're going awry, we still have the live betting to get us back over the hump there. Tej, appreciate you. We always enjoy the time that we get together, even though you have to wait patiently either for practice to end or for Seth Galina, your brother and Vishnu, to shut up and get on with it. So thanks for hanging out. We will be back with you next weekend. Of course, we'll be back with all of you on Sunday night. So thanks for hanging out. We love you. We'll talk to you on Sunday. Thanks.